Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the one thing I wish I knew before, is that your thoughts aren't you.
All right, welcome. Let me get your name, ethnicity, and where you're from.
My name's Chris McWhorter. I'm a Caucasian male, and I'm born and raised in Clarksville, Tennessee, that I got out of there as soon as possible. I kind of traveled all over the United States, and now I live in Smyrna, Tennessee.
But yeah, they get their power. Like, those mics don't need it. They don't.
Dynamic mics.
What's it called? The something field effect transistor, whatever, the FET side of it. But that's like the main thing. I just want to go over a couple guidelines and a couple rules before we really get into the meat and potatoes of everything. All answers should be true. If you came to lie, then you came to the wrong place.
100%.
All answers should be true to you and how you see it. Don't be scared to offend anybody. Don't be scared to cater to anybody. Everything should be uniquely you. With that being said, we shall begin. I forgot. And I might have to hold this like this. But there's something about holding it like this that I like. I don't know why. Gives off like that DIY vibe.
You know, that's how Marcus King does.
For real?
He always, I've seen a bunch of videos of him in the studio. I always use a 7B, takes the filter off, and he just sits on the couch and does it. Yep.
Something about like just holding it like this.
Yeah. Like you can control it better too.
Yeah,
it feels wrong because you're an audio engineer. Like that's your job, is to put them on stands and shit. So
well, not always. It's to be innovative. Let's start from when you were born. What year were you born, and how did that look like?
So I was born in 1979 in Clarksville, Tennessee. I don't remember the exact time. My mom used to tell me all the time I was born at 7:11 in the morning on 6/11/79, but come to find out, I saw my birth certificate years later. I was not born at 7:11 in the morning, but I can't remember exactly when it was. My mom and dad were married at the time. They were in a very high conflict relationship, is what I've learned is the technical term for it now. My dad was very, very abusive to my mom. Household growing up, I was yelling, screaming, fighting. It was just, I never, like my dad didn't beat me till I got older, but when I was younger, like I was kind of hands off, at least for that period. But I had an older brother. He's 3 years older than me. I mean, I don't want to say it was normal, but because I don't really know what normal is. Yeah.
Like when Marcus King, that was crazy that he just showed up there.
I bet that was cool.
Like that fool was.
Yeah.
I was standing.
Did you get to talk to him?
I did. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't get to talk to him. Like I wish I would have got to talk to him, but I was standing right there, and I was like, there was a security guard right next to me. He had the maroon shirt, so he was one of the supervisors. And I pulled up because I was looking at him, and I hadn't even really seen too many pictures of Marcus King. I just seen his like Spotify profile picture or his Apple Music profile picture. So I pulled it up on Apple Music, and I showed the security guard. I was like, "Don't that kind of look like him right there? Don't that kind of look like Marcus King?" He was like, "That's Marcus King." I was like, "Oh," well. I was like,
"You're natural, Bubba."
So there comes a point. I think they say you don't reach consciousness until you're about 7 years old, but I think that there's a time before that when you can actually realize what's happening around you. At what point in your childhood can you think back to and really remember understanding your surroundings and understanding that you're conscious and you're alive?
The first time I can really remember was about 3. My mom and dad were fighting, and I, for some reason, just went into my room, got dressed, and my grandparents lived right down the street. We lived on West Park Drive in Clarksville. And I walked down there and I just sat on my grandmother's front porch. And I remember it was snowing outside, but I don't remember specifically what time of the year, other than it was really cold because I put a jacket and a hat on and everything. And I went and sat on her front porch, and I think it was, I have no concept of how long I sat there, but I remember her coming out of the house really mad, and she beat the shit out of me because I got up and left the house without anybody knowing. But that's my first memory. And I have some other memories, like apparently I chipped my front tooth with a Pink Panther chalkboard. And I remember the chalkboard, and I remember falling down and hurting myself. I don't remember, the specifics around it, but I have like little fragments of memories from that age. My mom made these Christmas tree ornaments one year out of cookies and put the shellac on them and made them as ornaments. And I remember eating them. and getting in a lot of trouble for eating them. She made the popcorn ring around the tree that year too. I was picking the popcorn off. So I have little fragmented memories of that time. And I still remember the layout of the house. I've since found the blueprints to that house to confirm, and I 100% remember the layout of that house.
Yeah.
He was wearing like some 70s shirt, cut all the way down here, cowboy hat.
Oh, they say that like to be successful in the music industry, you have to live that lifestyle. Whatever persona you're doing, you have to live it. Period.
That's when you can tell that the music really gets not as genuine anymore. Whenever they,
when they're faking it.
From reality.
When they're faking it. When they have what did you call it? I love that term that you use, the split identity or split digital identity. Where you have
the fractured identity.
Yeah, fractured identity. I love that concept because I think the internet has created
that's exactly
all that.
what happens. It does because now so even from a young age, I think we can start to set the foundations from what will come to become and come to believe. I know we talk a lot about cognitive dissonance. What was a point in your life where you realized what you truly and wholeheartedly believed to be true was just completely false?
So I really didn't start getting that until I was older. I lived in the illusion. I thought it was real. If you would have asked me 10 years ago what type of childhood did I have, I would have told you. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. But that's not true. And since I've learned what cognitive dissonance is holding two diametrically opposed thoughts that both of them really can't be true. I feel it now that I can name it. I feel it all the time, and was likely feeling it back then too. I just didn't realize what it was. But I have a daily dose of cognitive dissonance now to realize that a lot of things is really it's training and it's programming that was put into you to design by somebody else to get you to act a certain way. And once you start realizing that those things aren't true, that they're not normal, and that shouldn't have ever happened to you, you have to accept that it did, but then you start changing it from that. And the more you change, the less that cognitive dissonance comes in when you just accept that, hey, this is who this person really is. And like, you have to accept that. You can't change other people. You're not responsible for their happiness. They're not responsible for yours.
So these days with like the younger generation, though, to get back on the fractured identity, a lot of people are getting their personas and their experiences and kind of shaping who they want to be from what they see on the internet. Whereas 100%. Before it used to be where you're from, used to be who you hang around, used to be how your parents were. But they're like
now it's
bypassing that.
What social media are you on?
So yes. So let's take a stroll kind of through your life. Let's start from the first experience that you realized today was traumatic. And then let's go step by step by step by step until we get to the present day. And you don't have to dwell too deep into the details. Just kind of give a stroll like we're cruising down the street. And your life, every building is a moment in your life. Some of them are broke down. Some of them are new. Some of them are still fresh. They still have wet paint, even though they've been standing for 30 plus years.
Yeah. So it depends on how you define trauma. I remember when I was 4, we were spending the night over at one of my mom's friend's house. My mom used to take us over there, and they had 2 kids and she had 2 kids. And they would leave us there where they went out to the club. Sometimes we'd have an adult babysitter there. Sometimes they just, hey, they're asleep, and go ahead and leave and then come back later. And I was woken up by the girl. She was older. I want to say that she was 8 or 9, somewhere around there. But her and my brother woke me up and started messing with me. And to me, is that the trauma? And in therapy, I kept examining it. Is the trauma that happened, or is the trauma that I didn't have a safe adult to go talk to? And the more I really examine it, it's just I didn't have a safe adult. I didn't have any adult in my life that I could go to and say, hey, this happened. I don't understand this. Why did this happen? And I just didn't have that. And that's really the trauma part. The having the sex with the girl, I mean, at 4 years old, don't get me wrong, it shouldn't be happening, but the sex wasn't traumatic. But the fact that A, it was happening to me, nobody was protecting me, and B, I had nobody to talk to about it. That to me is the ultimate trauma, my first one that I can really reflect on and say, hey, that was a very traumatic event.
happen anymore. It definitely did. It's the exact same thing that happened January 6th. But they just tell you there's nothing to see here. They gaslight you. And, it was an attack on the Capitol and blah, blah, blah. And them motherfuckers were tourists. Like, if you watch that, like, they're opening up the doors, they're taking pictures or standing on the desk. It was tourists. It was a bunch of people, and shit just got out of control, and they blew it into something way more than it is.
If you were there, what would you have done? Would you have been like,
I wouldn't have went in. No, I wouldn't have went in. I'm not stupid. Like, that's a fucking setup. No, I wouldn't have went in. I mean, I'd like to think I would. I don't know what I would have done, but the shit just don't add up. Like, I watched that live when it was happening, right? Nothing about that looked like an attack. It looked like a protest more than anything.
I didn't see it live. Were they showing the live footage live, from inside of it?
Not inside, but they were like outside the Capitol. Okay. Like, it was fucking crazy.
So later that they got the footage.
Well, so apparently there was like 650 hours of footage from different cameras that just got deleted by that select committee. And they're like, oh, it was an accident. And they're like, no. But even like when Trump became president through the Freedom of Information Act, he turned over one of the reasons why he pardoned a lot of those guys is he turned over a lot of that video footage that actually proved these guys were innocent.
Yeah.
Like, they were just being set up on charges. There was one that they said that he broke into this and damaged something. They had him on video. He wasn't anywhere near it. And he kept saying, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. They sentenced him to like 6-7 years in prison. And it never happened. Like, literally, it never happened. It's man, people lie, and they do it intentionally. My brother, he used to he would bring other girls into the picture, and basically, for lack of a better word, we were having threesomes with him. But as he got older, that attention, particularly when we moved out in the country, like way out in the middle of nowhere in a place called Woodlawn, Tennessee. And it's a little bigger now, but back then there was absolutely nothing. Like, it was just just nothing to do. He turned that attention on me, and he started molesting me. I can't remember the first time how old I was, but I know I was young, no more than 6, 7 at the most. And I carried a lot of shame with that for years because, you wonder, am I gay? Did I like it? And it's, when it comes down to it, I know for a fact I'm not gay now. That shouldn't happen to me. And my parents should have protected me, but my mom didn't have a concept of that. I have, in reflection and looking back as an adult and kind of understanding situations and understanding things that I was seeing that I just couldn't understand then, I strongly suspect that my mom was probably sleeping with my brother. And then he would come abuse me. So it was like this just fucked up circle. And in Tennessee rains a lot. It rains more in Tennessee than it does in Seattle. It just rains more often in Seattle.
Yeah.
But it rains more.
I know. I'm 3 a.m. driving back from work, and they like randomly start picking on me.
Yeah. Tennessee's bad. Drive. Yeah. I remember back in that flood, and I think it was 2012.
That got the Opry Mills.
That got everything. And so the bad part is it got, where the Gulch is now?
Yeah.
So it got that whole area. That all used to be strip clubs and industrial buildings, right? Like burnout warehouses, shooting galleries, find bodies over there every fucking week. Like, that was just the bad area of town. Now you go through and they got fucking places that are $350 for a haircut,
So what are you trying to say? That they control the clouds and they made it flood so that they can gentrify it?
It continued on till I was about 12. I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. And I was bigger than him, so I could fight back, and I started fighting back. Of course, when I started fighting back, my mom was on the phone with her mom or her dad or my aunts or uncles every night talking about how violent I was, and he just lashes out for no reason. And given looking at it, I probably looked very, very violent, but I was trying to protect my ass, and like I protected it, and I got to where I'd fight him back, and he just eventually stopped trying because every time that he'd try, I'd beat the shit out of him. I split his lip a couple times, had to get stitches, and he was a trumpet player, so he couldn't play trumpet anymore. So I had to drop out of band, all sorts of stuff over that. But it was this continuous cycle. And then after that stopped within a year or two, I started hitting on my mom's friends, her grown women friends, and they were happily obliging me. And I used to think I was kind of the man. Here I was, a 12, 13-year-old kid, and I'm sleeping with all these married women and grown women. And I thought I was this big player that I was convincing them to do it. In reality, they were abusing me. And my mom knew. She knew the friends of hers I was sleeping with, like she knew, and she just didn't care. I'm not sure where that came from, or the lack of ability to protect your child. I don't know what happened there. I know my mom struggled with some version of a mental illness. Could have been BPD, could have been covert narcissism. I'm not sure. The traits overlap so much, and there's things about her that I just never knew. I don't think I ever had a real connection with my mom. Definitely didn't with my dad. I barely knew my dad.
I don't know that it takes it to that extent, that because I don't have any proof of that. I know 100% cloud seeding is a thing in Dubai. Was a year and a half ago.
They messed up, right? Then
they put too much in it, and they flooded the fuck out of the city, and they were able to turn it off and clean it up in a matter of days, right? And they admitted they were cloud seeding. Yeah. And I know that that technology exists. Like, you can get on the patent website and read all about it. It exists. Whether or not they're doing it here, I don't know. I don't know if that was the case then, but like, that made somebody billions of dollars. So, no, fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
That's where all them apartments went up.
The next guy that I actually want to get on after you, which he may or may not be the next episode, but I want it to be the next upload. His name's Christian.
Yeah.
He's 59 now. He's 59, and every time, on Luke's, they have those little bars. They always have the rooftops. We'll go to the rooftop and just kind of look down. And every time we do, he gets into it's like, man, this did not used to be like this. He's one of those, like, he likes to talk about corporate greed and like how you're a slave to your wages. He's like a philosopher. That's what I'm going to call this episode,
so
actually.
You got to think, you work 4 months out of the year for free.
Yeah, because
right?
Taxes.
Yeah, because of taxes. So, and those taxes are going paid.
Pedophiles, yeah.
It was when I had my son, really the first time that I got abused at 4, that my first memory of it, at least sexually abused, that's when I started having like a breakdown. And I mean, it was a mental breakdown that I had at 44, that when I started realizing this shit ain't right, my childhood was not normal. I remember I woke up one day and just had this compulsion to tell my wife everything. So I'd never told her. I always kind of kept it to myself. I told a detective one time, to put some context with that, my brother years later ended up getting arrested for molesting some other children. And they came and interviewed me, and I told them everything and laid it all out. And the detective didn't believe me. And he was like, oh, you probably liked it, or, it's, if you let it go on for that long, you were consenting to it. And I didn't consent to shit. I was a child. There's no way a child can consent to having sex, period, in my opinion. But when I realized I had to face that and realized it was something I needed to do, I couldn't not tell my wife. I needed to talk to her. I needed to tell her everything. And so I sat down in the living room or in the kitchen with her and just poured out everything. It was like this verbal just vomit, just constantly telling her absolutely everything that I could. And the crazy part is years later, she tried to use all that against me.
Well, to pedophiles, gender reassignment surgery, $30,000. And I remember the year I had to pay like $36,000 in taxes. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. But when all the USAID thing broke, at that same time, they spent $30,000 on a trans comic book in Peru, right? They took $32,000 from me. I may as well paid for that.
You paid for it.
Yeah. And so I worked, and you took money out of my kids' mouth and out of my family that I could better them or save or better my own situation. You took it out to do something that I not only don't agree with, but really I think is incredibly harmful to people.
Trans, well, shoot, they need more trans people. They looked at their demographics and they were like, we don't have enough trans. We don't have enough gay people.
There's not, like, I don't think it's a gay thing.
Well, no, that was a joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think there are some people that are, you're just gay. But the trans thing, I think, is personally, I think it's a mental illness. Like I think it.
Oh, transgenderism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be classified. Yeah. Yeah. It used to be classified. No, it's not yet. I'm sure it will be, but it used to be classified as a mental illness. But like you look down and you have a penis and you genuinely believe that you have a woman or that you're a woman, well, you're not living in reality, right?
Yeah.
There's and I know it's a perceived reality, but like it's, and everybody's reality is different, but there's still an objectiveness to it. Right?
It goes back to how we were talking about, like as an audio engineer, this microphone, those speakers, our ears, transducers,
Absolutely.
pick up energy for us to perceive it. If you believe that you're a man, you probably hope, but you feel like a female or you don't feel right in your body. There's got to be, because some people truly believe it. And I met a lady when I was in Phoenix for a little bit that was LGBTQ community. And I guess her mom's husband was transgender, but I don't know what his original gender was. Like I could never, it was so confusing. I never knew what he actually really was and transitioned into. But from her perspective, it opened my mind a little, because I used to just make fun of it and like be edgy with it. But I think that, like you were saying, to have compassion for yourself, you got to have compassion for other people.
100%.
Understand, like if you really feel like you're a woman, but you're a man, people like to make fun of it and clown it and look down on it. But why do you feel like that?
So I don't clown.
So I think you were already playing with an idea right there. And the next question I have for you is, when you think back to your childhood, what moments can you look back and can really say shaped who you are today?
There's a lot, like everything. Man, everything shaped who I am today. Shapes how I view things, shapes how I watch over my son, shapes my relationships, how I form them. Man, there's just so many things. And I don't even know that it's just one thing. It's just a continuous, it's all inputs that go into your brain. And the worse those inputs are, the worse your outputs are going to be. I never had therapy. I never had a safe person to talk to. I just didn't have those what I consider luxuries in life, because they're not guaranteed. You can't control who you're born to. You can't control what family you're in. That's just a happenstance. And so every experience shaped who I am today and shape how I see the world and shape how I interact with the world. Every single experience I've ever had led to who I am today. And even the ones that most people would say, oh, that was a mistake or that was wrong, you shouldn't have done that, because I want to be crystal clear. I'm not perfect. I've been the bad guy. I've been the really bad guy at times. But that's not me. It's just, I believed it was me for many, many years, because that was the lens that I was filtering everything through. When I was growing up, I was always, the fat piece of shit, the lazy motherfucker, the worthless ass person. That was how my mom talked to me. And so that inner voice her voice became my inner voice. So anytime I'd make a mistake or do something wrong, I'm just a piece of shit. Girl cheat on me. Well, I deserve that. I cheated in a relationship before. So this is just karma coming back to me. And you get to the point where you think you deserve all the bad shit happening to you, that there's something that you did that makes you worthy of receiving that. And it's just a mindset, because if you erase your mistakes, you erase who you are. And as I sit on this couch, I'm very, very happy with the man that I am today.
Well, that's a different type of territory. Talking about like having a male go into the female restroom and you got children in the restroom.
But I mean, not only does that actually happen and that they fought for the right to be able to do that, but you also have like cases where people turn transgender in prison and they're male and get put into the female prisons where they still have a penis. Yeah. And what do you think happens? There was a fairly popular case a couple years ago where there was a judge that was trying to get confirmed to some political office, and they were questioning her during the Senate hearing, and she put a child sexual predator into a woman's prison because he said he was transgender, and he ended up raping 10 or 15 of the inmates, impregnating a couple of them.
What was that, at Tennessee?
No, it went in Tennessee. It was somewhere in the federal system. I don't remember where, but I mean, if you Google it, you can find the story. There's plenty of stuff on it. But what do you expect to happen? You got a person who's already molested a child, so they're a sexual predator ipso facto. That's just who they are. And you're putting them around people that they can victimize. Because predators only look for 3 types of people. They look for women, kids, and old people. That's it.
Or vulnerable people.
Vulnerable people. Yeah, they don't go after somebody that looks like, oh, he might kick my ass. Oh, he's going to put up a fight. That's not who they go after. Yeah. There's 2 indicators to determine whether or not your child will be molested: is how aware the father is, how involved the father is, and whether or not there's a step parent in the house. If there's a step parent in the house, raises a chance to 90%. 90%. It raises your odds of your kids get messed with by 90%. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a whole lot.
What do you think people often misunderstand about the way you live and the way you have lived?
I think the biggest thing is most people misunderstand my motivations. Most people think that my motivation for certain things, like I committed a long period of fraud for years. I mean, you could have classified me as a career criminal for almost 20 years. I was doing life on the installment plan in prison. I didn't care if I had the ability to take it from somebody. I take it from somebody. I didn't do robbery or anything like that. I would commit fraud. But it's still taking other people's stuff that's not yours. But at the time, I didn't see anything wrong with it. But part of how your experiences shape you, when I was growing up, like my mom used to take my brother to go shoplift at stores, and that's how she got Christmas presents and stuff like that. She used to write bad checks all over town. So I was exposed to fraud at an early age and how to do it. And I just evolved it and got way better at it than she ever did, or had the balls to do something bigger than she did. I'm not sure which one it is. Or I had a bigger antisocial attitude. I'm not sure. But I think my motivation is the biggest misconception, because I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And now that I understand the motivations a little bit more. And my motivation is always just for a genuine connection. I'm doing things to either people to see me as a good person or as a caring person. And it's a narcissistic trait to try to manage that image. And I fell into that trap for many, many years. I needed the Rolex or the Escalade, or need to have all the money and pay for everybody at the parties. And it's a delusion that you think you're doing something that you're not. But that's part of it.
And so think about how many single mothers you know out there, right? When they get married, you're raising that probability to 90%. And that's insane to me. But at the same time, like it's life to a certain extent, but every predator that's ever been interviewed that they consider to be an honest interview, the way that they pick their victims is they look at child victims, or child predators particularly, is they look at the father. Is the father going to be a problem? Because the mother is never a problem to a guy.
Or
right?
is there going to be some male figure that's going to be a problem?
Correct.
An uncle or a big brother.
Something. Like something. Is there going to be somebody that could threaten me if something happens?
I hate to cut you off, but I think your beard turned more white throughout these past 2 months.
I don't doubt that at all.
Like you used to not have too much white, but you got a lot.
And what's crazy, this is after I tried to knock the white out of it. I'm starting to notice more gray in my hair and everything.
Stress probably did.
It's cortisol. Yeah, that's what my stomach's all messed up. It's just that it's an obscene amount of stress. Because you got to think with BPD, you feel everything at a 10x level, right? So it's a heightened emotional state as it is. And then throughout the last 2 months, really, I've just had my core wounds just kicked and popped every time I turn around.
This one should be a little fun. Was there a moment or season that completely shifted how you view life?
Which time? I've had so many different things in life that where you have an experience and it hits you, and you see the world for what it really is. Growing up, we're always told, the criminal justice system seeks truth, police are good. And then you grow up, and not all police are bad. Like, I understand most people are doing their jobs, but, I've had cops pull me over that couldn't get me for what they were wanting to do. And there was one where I'd been prescribed some hydrocodone, and I had taken one out because I didn't want to take it while I was driving, but as soon as I got to where I was going to pop it. And I had it sitting in my center console. Now, in the deep console was the pill bottle. And when he saw the pill, and he found the pill bottle, he literally threw it on the side of the road and said, well, we don't want that in evidence. And that's the first time I ever experienced that. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I get into the criminal justice system, and I realize it's not about seeking the truth, it's about getting a conviction. And that really changed my view of the world, and at least towards that system. But man, I've had so many of those moments where like you experience something that completely alters the reality that you live in, because you either have to accept it or going on in a delusional world. And the last thing I want to be doing is living in a false reality. And so reality is such a weird concept because it's different for everybody. You could be sleeping in the same bed next to somebody and not even know them at all. They could be the closest person in your life, and they have a whole secret life without you. And you have to accept that that's just the reality of life. Everybody's going to see the world through their own lens, and their belief systems is going to be different from yours. And I think that we're all connected, but at the same time, we all live in completely different realities. And it's cool, but at the same time, it's kind of scary that like the closest person to you can live in a different world and different reality than you live in. And that's terrifying in some respects. But what I've learned is just, it's better to not even look, just let them. Because people show you who they are if you just sit back and let them.
Yeah.
It's most of the time, particularly with a mental disorder, because with BPD, you're looking for a genuine connection. That's your motivator. You just want a motherfucker to love you and see you. That's it. That's all you want, right? There's nothing else that you really want. That's all you want, is be seen for who I am.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a fear, well, if you do see me, will you really like me, right? Yeah. And then that comes where you trauma dump on people. Like, first time you meet them, you fucking run down some horrible shit, just see if they can handle it, right? Yeah. And it's all a trauma response.
To see their reaction.
Just see their reaction. Yeah. Can they handle this? If I tell them this really bad shit, they're going to be able to handle the other shit, you know? But it's testing boundaries. It's gauging. Let me see how it goes. And there's a lot of like what I call default actions that I've taken through the vast majority of my life that you don't even think about it. You just do it. You don't even realize why you're doing it. Yeah. But now that I understand what's going on in my brain, I understand why I do it now. Yeah. And then once you have that self-awareness, you can stop doing it, because being aware that a problem exists is the first step in actually being able to fix the problem. But at the same time, it's like, think of the possibilities with it. Like there's so much to experience in this life, and seeing the world from other people's perspectives makes it easier for you to really enjoy life. I genuinely believe that the purpose of life is meaningless. It's the meaning that you assign to it. And that's different for everybody. So that means everybody's purpose in life and reality in life is completely different, but we're all unique in our own regard, because it's all based upon our experience.
So this one I find very interesting, because I would ask you, if you could speak to your younger self, what would you tell them? But I would argue that your younger self is you, and when you have a lot of trauma in your life, you're constantly speaking to that younger person. So with that,
so there's a concept that I really started getting into in therapy, because part of healing from all of this is you got to parent your inner child. And my first memory of being abused was when I was 4, although that's arguable, because like where I went down to my grandmother's house, that's abuse. It's emotional and mental abuse at a minimum. Especially for a child that young. But we figured out that I'm stuck in the object consistency stage, which typically forms between the ages of 3 to 6. And my therapist said that there's parts of me that has evolved past that, but emotionally, I'm kind of stuck in that. I always say I kind of respond like a 4-year-old. That's gotten way better over time, but it's the reality of it. You're stuck in that position, and emotionally you view the world through that lens because you don't have those abilities. So healing from it is really parenting that inner child. And that's what I keep thinking, I need to fix that inner child, but I'm not sure I ever had an inner child to develop. I don't know that I was ever given the freedom for that space to actually grow and really develop into its own person. So I don't know that I really need to parent my inner child, but I more need to tap back into it.
Open up to people.
Well, no. See, that's the problem with BPD is I instantly open up to people. I'm too trusting is the problem. I always try to look for the good in people.
Me too.
So, and if that's what you're looking for, you're going to find it. But is it real?
There's always traces of it in people.
There is, but here's the thing. You meet a million masks in your lifetime, right? You really only actually get to see one or two people.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's usually drug addicts and shit like that actually let you show you who they really are. And I've told you my theory on like drug addicts and things like that. And most of them, you have unhealed trauma that you're not dealing with. When you take drugs, it's to numb something. That's it. And plus, like weed, especially, like, I smoked a shit ton of weed. I've been pretty good here lately. But weed really, it shuts down your default network. Psilocybin, mushrooms, all do the same thing. So all your defense mechanisms and all your natural reactive behaviors that was programmed as childhood are turned off.
Yeah.
With BPD, you have something called a secondary psychopath. And because BPD it's borderline and it's not, I borderline have a personality, because I definitely have a personality, but it's borderline between neurosis and psychosis. So neurosis, bad for me, psychosis, bad for you. When you slip into that psychosis, you go into a secondary psychopath state. And you have every attribute of a genuine psychopath. You don't care. You don't care about any consequences to your actions, and there's no restraint. Growing up, when I get into fights, I remember I used to, before I'd start fighting, almost everything would kind of glitch in front of me. And I've read a lot of studies on that, and that's that secondary psychopath taking over. So I've got to the point to where I know that's part of me, that's part of my personality. And that secondary psychopath really is a protector when everything's said and done. That's all that persona is. And I've got to where my therapist says I don't need to let him drive, but ask his opinion. Because again, it's very protective. And that opinion can be useful. That secondary psychopath has saved my life literally multiple times in my life, where he comes out and he just don't give a fuck, and he's going to burn everything to the ground, and he'll destroy anything in front of him that's a threat to him. And that's very, very useful at times, but it's being able to control it. And as I've gotten older, I can't always turn it on. It needs to be triggered, but I've learned how to turn it off. I've learned how to put him back and just get his opinions, but not necessarily let him engage with the real world. Because that once you slip into that psychosis, I'm in a delusional state at that point, and I can't hold both feelings. BPD has a concept called splitting or black and white thinking. So either somebody's all good or all bad. And when secondary psychopath takes control, they're usually all bad. And if somebody's all bad, it means harm and is your enemy and trying to destroy you, you're going to react accordingly. Most anybody would. I recently saw something on one of the social media sites where they were asking, parents and mothers, would they kill for their kid? And some's like, I don't know. I would wear the skin of another motherfucker for my kid. But that's the secondary psychopath, because he doesn't care. So it's, it's tricky. It really is. Does that answer your question though?
It's a answer. There's no wrong answers. There's no right answers.
Well,
there's only your answer.
Well, no. I completely understand it's my answer, but I feel that was responsive to your question. I just want to make sure that it was.
Yeah, I like the answer. So last question. This really isn't a question. It's more of I want a statement. Somebody watching heard what you said, and it clicked for them. I want you to find somebody, right? And you're sitting in an empty living room with a light on you, right? But I want you to find somebody and tell them something that you wish you had learned sooner. So speak to somebody. I know you're looking at a camera, but imagine it's somebody. Speak to that person.
So as a trauma response, when you've went through certain things in life and
not when, speak to somebody.
So having a traumatic childhood, you have thoughts in your head that aren't good thoughts, and you think it makes you a bad person. And Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the one thing I wish I knew before, is that your thoughts aren't you. There's a concept that I heard called thought diffusion recently. And instead of saying, I feel this or this happened when the thought comes into your mind, it's, I had a thought that this could be possible. It disassociates the thought with the feeling and makes it much more intellectual. That has helped out tremendously, but your thoughts aren't you. The only thing you're responsible for is your actions and your reactions. And you can filter those no matter how fucked up life is. You can filter those through a moral compass to find out who you really are. And yeah, that's what I wish I would have known 20, 30 years ago. But
And the camera died. How perfect, huh?
hey, perfect.